if there was a marketing industry VIX index, which there isn't, but if there was, the sort of things we've seen, not just what you're referring to in relation to Apple today, in relation to IDs, but also in relation to IDFA before, and Google's decision to deprecate, if that's the right word, third-party cookies. All of that adds to the uncertainty surrounding advertising and marketing, and actually makes the sort of things that we do. We're not an ad tech or martech firm. We're not dependent on one technology or the other. What we do is gauge the relative importance of all. And if you look at the underlying growth, if you look at Q1, for example, this year, you see Google moving from probably about 180 billion to 240 billion in terms of ad revenues this year. Facebook about 80 to 110. Amazon maybe 20 run rate to 35. That's an extra 100 billion that will be pumped into digital advertising this year on the back of the pandemic, driven by the GDP rebound that you've been talking about a few minutes ago. I mean, 5 to 6% this year in the world, and 4 to 5% the forecast for next year. These are unprecedented 2 years. I have to go back to the 1980s when we had far greater inflation, so the real rate of GDP growth was much lower. So there are two things driving S4 in our industry. One is digital transformation, the secular trend. The other is the bounce back in GDP from the post-pandemic, or the pandemic levels.
We'll get into some more micro stuff in a moment, Sir Martin. On the macro front, G7 meeting kicking off over the next couple of days. It's expected that President Biden's going to try and corral more support from other world leaders to join him in a tougher stance on China. What is your view on that at the moment as to whether that's the right move? Is it likely to go down that route, or do you think we will see easier tensions in due course?
Well, as you talk to somebody who's trying to build a global company, we have, 5,500 people in 31 countries. We started really 2 3/4 years ago. Market cap now is just under $5 billion. I mean, China for us is a really important market. It will be the largest market in the world by, 2028. Maybe that makes certain countries in the West uncomfortable, but the facts of life are it will be the biggest. Not on a per capita basis, but bigger. I do worry about climate change. I do worry about diversity and inclusion and equity. I do worry about Brexit. I do worry about the pandemic. I do worry about inequality. But, what top of the worries, I think, or close to the top, if not the top, is US-China relations. And finding a way where we can constructively coexist instead of what is effectively a Cold War, I think is a key issue. So, I mean, I saw a squib today about the first trade negotiations between the Chinese and the new American administration, Biden administration, and it was slightly positive. Maybe there's some things happening. A lot of this is for public consumption because but U.S. business, when it started with President Obama, developed with President Trump, and is continued so far under President Biden, I don't think the U.S. business community was troubled by it until the friction started to hit their businesses in what is currently the second largest market in the world, but we will be the largest. So finding, I think it was Hank Paulson's speech, 2 years ago in Singapore, which referred to the Cold War, finding a solution, a constructive solution between the U.S. and China is key if you believe in the growth and development of a global economy, free trade, which has driven the growth of so many businesses over the last 25, 30 years, certainly since Deng Xiaoping's speeches in 1985.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.